Today we are talking about unique book. This includes more than 100 stories, histories of real people who were at Maidan, who saw not just tragic stories in Maidan. I would like to invite Mr. Leonid Finberg, who was the person who compiled the book. He knows each one of these stories, and he can tell us about how were they preparing for printing, for publishing. Thank you. Good evening, esteemed colleagues, esteemed friends. I believe that here everyone understands what Maidan is for every one of us. You all understand it. But there's one simple formula which is common for all of us. And that is that Maidan is the civilization choice of the people of Ukraine. I believe it took place despite all the contradictions, all the processes taking place after that, and the process which might take place in the future. We all know that practically the whole of the 20th century, because of different reasons, the memory, the real memory about real events, everything was done so that this memory is not preserved. The preservation of the memory, that was what all the enemies of Ukraine were against, all those who were destroying the any evidence to interpret the history their way. They were eliminating people, and we know about all these horrible pages of history. And that was during the revolution, during the so-called civil war, but very often that was just the occupation of Ukraine by Moscow. And that was happening in the 30s, in the 40s. And to say, we could be saying that there was some memory that was preserved, but that was the memory which was registered either in Soviet documents or Nazi documents, and all of them were absolute lies. Because of the reasons we all know about today, it has become possible to write the true story of our true history of our nation. The history of the Second World War hasn't been written yet. Everything that was called victories in Soviet times in most cases were defeats. And that is true talking about other periods in history. We managed to tell something about Holodomor in Ukraine, for example. But the Second World War is defended, is protected by the whole Russian Empire. Maidan, for all of us, is it is clear for all of us that it is some benchmark in the Ukrainian history which is important for all of us because of the courage, because of the solidarity of people, because of self-organization, stepping away from stereotypes, which which people abroad know about, that nothing will happen even if I am not involved. Maidan was such a period of Ukrainian history, which was outstanding. All the evidence which is in this publication is a very important symbol of that memory. We collected more than 300 of such evidence. We worked for a year and a half on that book. First, we were selecting the texts which are worth most attention. First, we were recording, then we were deciphering, then structuring, then editing. And we were editing with delicacy, quite accurately. More than 100 people who participated in that were very responsible, because Maidan has not finished by the victory, our victory, in 2014. It still continues. It continues as an intellectual Maidan, as participation in the hybrid war. It continues as the history of the nation develops. And we are trying to register that unique experience, to register it maximum adequately, so that this memory is not distorted, so that it is not changed, so that it is registered in times when such things were happening. And this work is something that Ukrainian society is doing. There were other books published, some of them also have evidence, a lot of evidence. This book was published when we were collecting our own history, and basically such evidence very often stay in archives, but there's a difference between archive and the book which becomes public. I will not talk about the specific work of editors about understanding them by the editors. You will be able to really assess it when you read the book. The collective of our authors, all our colleagues, we have moral responsibility for what has been done. I would like to thank everyone who was helping publish this book. First of all, Renaissance Foundation. The leadership of Renaissance Foundation supported the idea of this project immediately. I would like to thank all the enthusiasts, the students, the teachers, the friends who were taught how to collect evidence. Also the students who were deciphering that, and then the group of editors that was working on the book. So thank you all. The next question will be to Yevhen Bystrytsky, the executive director of Renaissance Foundation. Renaissance Foundation is involved into different types of work to support the civil society, to develop the open society in Ukraine. Why it is important for the foundation to support such projects directed towards culture and humanitarian sphere? Why is it important?
For the foundation and for me Personally, this was important because of several reasons. First of all, the Maidan revolution has done one thing which everybody feels but do not mention quite often. And after Maidan, Ukraine has become complete, so to say. Ukraine as a nation, Ukraine as an object of the civilization, as a civilization, and Ukraine as the country. Before Maidan, you could not say that for sure. After Maidan, Russian separatists can occupy Crimea. Pro-Russian separatists may stay in Donetsk and Lugansk, while Ukraine remains in place, and it is striving to become part of European civilization. And for the foundation, it was very important to emphasize this fact, and it was equally important for the foundation as for the authors of the book to publish it. As a participant of the Maidan events, and I stayed in Maidan for almost 3 months, how many confessions did you collect in the book? 150. There might be, I think, thousands of them. I think that all those stories, they are interpretations. What we have seen during the last several days, this was an attempt to discredit Maidan, to create an alternative to Maidan. We had to fix the real features of Maidan, and we tried to do this in that 150 evidences. And to sum up, we are ready to provide assistance or grants to those who might wish to work further with those confessions, with those evidence. We need those researchers, those people who would be able to read and to sum up the evidences collected in this book. I do not know how to call this work. Maybe this is a research work done on the collection, based on the collection of evidences. When I travel abroad, or even immediately after Maidan, there was a round table, and we were trying to write down some texts presenting Maidan. I realized at that time several facts. Maidan was not led by politicians. It rejected from political leadership of politicians which were in force at that time. Even when some politicians tried to lead Maidan, they failed. The maximal ratings of those politicians were between 5 and 7%. That is why Maidan was self-governed, self-led in terms of leadership. When I stayed in Maidan, I had several groups, several teams, which I joined at different moments of my stay in Maidan. So, and for me, it's absolutely clear that Maidan called itself the Maidan of dignity. Um, which is very understandable value for the Western people, and on the other hand, those people who stayed in Maidan, they protested against non-dignified government. They had an idea of uh, uh, Ukraine, and there was so to say primary consensus. Some pro-fundamentalists, some people would like to turn Maidan into a conservative country. Uh, where they and to interpret it in the extreme right wing, not based on the universal human rights. I think that the evidences, the confessions which we collected in our book clearly show that Maidan is a diversity of vision is based on visions is based on the independence of Ukraine and on the vision of Ukraine as a country which has made its European choice. So I would like to mention once again that the foundation would be glad to support such summarizing discussions on the Maidan phenomena based on this evidence which is collected here. Thank you very much. Mr. Bystrytsky mentioned the issue of confessions for Oleksiy Sigov, who is a Maidan participant and for whom confessions are in the center of his research work. Probably it was rather difficult to approach scientifically to those confessions.
Basically, I started researching the topic of evidence as the cultural phenomenon. That was the year before Maidan. That was a theory. I was interested in certain Ukrainian myths, which we start reading before elections. Politicians manipulate them. And with that wound is left, the memory cannot get out of this prison. There's no space for sorrow or for peace, and I was interested in how you can get confidence back into the society. I was interested in what could be the preconditions to start a discussion about civil society. Then Maidan started, and I saw that in practice. During Maidan, Berkut left Ukrainian house, and during the first hours we came together with other volunteers. Everything was ruined. There was no library of Maidan, no media center. There was no after Maidan center here. We started to restore the library. we were getting the books. We were selecting the book, and there was not a single spirit and letter book, Dukh and Litera, before Maidan of our publishing house. But then I said, maybe Berkut, when they were running away, they took away all our books. Probably now they will have a chance to understand what critical thinking is. But this didn't happen, unfortunately, but in fact. And the book on Maidan is about that. From my experience, I was interested because I was able to participate in several things. I was providing evidence myself, even though I felt that when we are trying to include only 150 people, but there are many more others. But I believe that these 150 names, that's not the attempt to close Maidan. That is a space which suggests certain terminology, and that is inviting you to hear the stories of others. I myself gave evidence, then I analyzed some other, and I was impressed because I survived that and reading other texts convinced me that everything was much more complicated. The way people with other views and even seeing these positions infuriated me. How could they not understand? That was obvious, but that is what continued my experience of how to perceive, how to be tolerant to others, to events, if we want to create the society. And this experience of tolerance, that is not just the norm which is registered somewhere in some constitutional memorandum. That is what we need to learn in practice, and this book demonstrates it and helps us understand how to practice it. I said that we had different opinions, but when we were collecting snow into sacks, that was much more important than our background. That is what I would like to share. Also, I'm pleased that the book invites you to look for other people with who you can talk, and it would be great if it would be good to if other books on Maidan, on the war, are published. That allows us to that allows us not to lose this meeting with others. It teaches us how to hear others. And my personal experience when I was communicating with Europeans, that demonstrates that small details in history help overcome propaganda better than any general comments, like there is no fascism in Ukraine. When you are just telling about how some guy was just trying to protect Crimean Tatar or a priest, then it's much easier to provide evidence, to argue. So I invite you to read it and also to register your own observations and the observations of your friends.
We discussed how the society was transformed in course of Maidan events, but we have among our guests a person who is very much familiar with the spiritual transformation in course of Maidan. We have Ramon Kaladkin, deacon of the Ukrainian Orthodox Church of the Kyiv Patriarchate, radio and TV host, poet, etc. So, what was your perception of the events? I'm deacon of the Ukrainian Orthodox Church. It's a lower stage than the priest, as you mentioned. As Alexei mentioned, that there are 150,000 people whose memories should be reflected in this book better than mine, but I was invited to speak, and it was very important to reflect on the truth and to witness the truth when impressions were still fresh. One of the quotations on the cover belonged to Van de Mida, who said, when so many people open their hearts, when so many people pray together in the chapel in Maidan, praying for those who were killed on Maidan. This is a unique moment. This was a unique moment in the history of Ukraine. When I myself, in my priest's gown, attended the Maidan activities, I felt how important it was for people to feel that the church, the priests, stayed together with them. And I recollect how many people on Facebook joined together during Maidan events and read psalms that were those who were unable to visit Maidan at some specific night. When I recollect when some people came to Maidan and offered several thousand hryvnia to those people in whom they had confidence, not asking for the report. When we stayed in the Kyiv Municipal Council, we had a concert, we had a presentation of a young poet and a presentation about Ukrainian icon painting done by Levskop. And today's morning I came back from Lithuania, where during 4 days I participated in the commemoration of the Heavenly 100 in Vilnius, Kaunas, Čiurlionės Museum, and they asked me about that third Maidan, and I commented that the third Maidan, that is not the third Maidan. That's something different. as the priest or God's servant has to has to preach about Jesus Christ all the time. We also should preach about real Maidan events all the time too. Thank you very much. We raised the issue of creative work, and I think that's a good moment to give the floor to Olena Gerasymiuk, who is a poet, essayist, and translator.
When Maidan finished and there was time goodbye to think about what had happened, then people got offended. In order for an average Ukrainian to understand that his symbols have some significance for that, should young people die for that?
Майдан, якщо дивитись, розглядати Майдан як такий велетенський культурний простір, в яким він був відсотків 70 свого існування.
Ukrainian writers, musicians received the platform to show what they do, and again to show that online.
Перший фланг оборони вийшли ті люди, з яких
There were plenty of jokes.
Як зараз ми так вдаримося в спогади. Я пам'ятаю, як в цій будівлі починалася бібліотека Майдану, як всі ми несли туди книжки, складали, це було так мило і так надихало. Ти думав, що робив якусь велетенську справу. І насправді, з одного боку, виступаючи перед людьми, ти бачив, особливо перед людьми, які спали в КМДА, з одного боку складалося враження, що, можливо, це і не потрібно, я ж їх розбужу, і такі якісь дивні думки. Але з іншого боку, це було цікаво. І це мало своє велике значення.
Thank you, Olena. And now I would like to give the floor to Andriy Andrushkiv, who's Master of Theology, but he's heading communication section of Reanimation Package of Reforms. Tell about your experience, about the consequences of Maidan. Good evening. When Umberto Eco died, one of my favorite writers, I wrote to my friend and we agreed that we were dreaming of going to Paris, and we were dreaming about walking around Paris of Foucault pendulum. We enjoyed all these details in the novels of Umberto Eco. Reading the books, you could imagine all these cities that were described. And this book is also a very detailed, emotional map of Maidan. On the 23rd of February, I got home. That was the first time in a week. I'm talking about 2014. I left home on the 18th, and I came back late at night on the 23rd. And then I received a letter from Moscow magazine that they are preparing materials about Maidan, and she asked me for some evidence. She requested me to make a some weekly notes, and I wrote to my work. I cannot go to work because I believe that is very important. It is very important to write for one of the most popular Russian publications the text which will help them understand more. And then in half a year, my friend from St. Petersburg, he was in Kyiv, I was in Lviv. We did not see each other, but he wrote, "It's a pity that we failed to walk, but I opened up the article." He said, "I was reading this article, your words, and for me this book is something outstanding. It's an outstanding story of different people." Then I would recognize people looking at their coats or their hats, even when I did not know people personally.
Мені в тому цінно, що там переважно
In 2013, during the Christmas, because I'm a theologist, I read the gospel from time to time, but I started reading it during Maidan more, and I started writing on my page in a Facebook, and I will just share one of my memories. That was Christmas of 2013, 25th of December. I was in metro thinking about Christmas. The image of the shepherds with the sheep is like some regular actors. But these common guys were very important participants of the first days of Jesus. They were the first ones who came to the cave. They brought what they had. They supported the human nature of the God and his mother. When I think about that, I think about the first elderly women who were bringing a piece of apple pie early in the morning to Mikhailovskaya on the 30th of November. These are our shepherds, those who came, who were the first ones to come. Then 3 kings come out according to the scenario of the Christmas tale. But let us remember about those who made the first steps. We remember about shepherds. We always remember about shepherds. That is the book. That is the book about shepherds. That is the book which will give us all more content, more food for thinking about. On the 21st, first trucks came that could clean the toilets which were in Maidan. And people in Maidan, they were cleaning them by hands. Some people were all in shit, and that is some sacrifice, and we were discussing it with my friend. That is probably people who are painted on icons, when the people are in the background. And for me, Maidan is the story about such people. It's great that we can read such evidence now. Thank you.
Thank you, Andriy. We shift to Q&A session, to comments.
Кому є що сказати?
On the one side, this book is a push to further collection of true evidences. On the other hand, I understand when Mr. Bystrytsky invited us to make a reflection of the book, that's the further step to include this story into our textbook, future textbooks. That famous laws from January 16 were aimed to prevent appearance of such books. And now we have the text which is actually the response to those laws from January 16th. And these texts are important not to, for us not to lose the reality. We have to prevent devaluation of those events. We should take care about such texts as we take care about that gold that supports our currency. We had, during Maidan events, we had December, January, there was a huge diversity of experiences, existential experience, and all Kyivans preserved that existential experience. Now my question to all participants of today's session, how we can shift to the third stage of this work. The first stage was to collect and write down the reflections. That's very good. That was done back in 2014. So you recorded all that in, registered all that in 2014. The next stage was publication of this book. So that huge distance between primary memories and the book is already covered. Now we are at the third stage, reception. This book should go, should reach the reader, not only in Ukraine, but also in Canada and everywhere, so that truth about Ukraine is not left alone, is not put aside. How this could be done? That's my question. Since Kostya reflected on my suggestion, I'm not going to make an abstract piece from this book. I just wanted to show that we should develop joint vision, what Maidan was in reality. For people to realize that they are in different reality. This should remain the common vision of our joint fate. We mentioned today about identity. Maidan was a consensus of the national identity. Maidan was very democratic, but it was based on Ukrainian national values, including those which I can prove. Different communities, different national communities implement or manifest their self-identity. Identity is always hidden inside our characters, but it projects itself. Ruski Mir, or the Russian world, has projected it in the war. It has projected it, manifested itself in the violence over all the rights and freedoms. It realized itself, manifested itself in the chauvinism towards neighbors. Ukrainian self-identity showed itself in the strive to democratic society, to European society, and intolerance. The book could be discussed, it could be interpreted, and this book provides moral criteria. Those 150 people whose confessions we collected, they present some high moral standards, and this was one of our editorial principles and approaches.
That book is really great, not in words but in events. First I thought, what could people say who are not used to talking, but who were so important for the victory of Maidan? And the priest, the magician was saying great, but the soldiers were saying they were pushing us. But then you could see that these people said some words that no writer can say. I know almost all the texts by heart. We worked with these texts so long that I just remember them. And now we, young nation, because of different reasons, Ukrainian texts which are important for the nation are being formed. We do not know how to formulate them. In the US and Germany, there are hundreds of thousands of books on history. We have just hundreds. But it's not just about the number of books. We do not know how to circulate them. I was talking to Smoloskyp publishing house. They are publishing some recollections of the dissidents. Will young people read them? I think not. For young people to read them, some other forms are to be invented. There should be some dialogues which were initiated by Soros Foundation. There should be different forms of how to disseminate the ideas of these books. There is our positive experience. We organized an exhibition on solidarity of people of different groups, of different confessions, of different nationalities, in different periods of history. Variants of Korchak were the people from Gulag who were helping each other. But one simple mechanism worked. When we saw in the museum of Anna Frank that the school children are guides there, and the students tell their friends about what's happening there, then the perception is different, and that produced much bigger effect than what we could have done. That's one of the methods there to be developed. We need to work on that. I don't know how to do that. This will be our experience. We'll be trying and we'll be successful. If you want young people to be with us, if we want them to read such books, we first need to get it registered, then prepare some digest, then prepare the exhibition, develop a different product for foreigners as well.
Хотіла би звернути просто маленьку ремарку, звернути увагу на те, що половина цієї книги є абсолютно
To say that half of the book is written by young people. I believe that many people who were at Maidan eventually the revolution is something that young people do. They will read it to compare with what they have seen. That's how my friends read about war. One of my friends buys books about the events where he participated, and he reads some pieces to us and provides comments about what he read.
відійшовши від якоїсь трагічної
Our friends were killed, we were wounded, but eventually we want something merry. One of the moments, one of the things is such merry things, joyful things. I looked at the titles, at the names. There are some cynical things there. We'll work on that.
Ну і моя думка, ви питаєте, що
You are asking what next? So again, talking on theology from the moment of resurrection of the Christ till the latest version of the latest gospel was written, 80 years passed. I'm talking about the gospel from John, when historians are saying that such text was profited. Some people were rewriting that text, then the pupils were editing this text, but we don't have a single monument to heavenly 100. What people wanted to do the first month, the first day, week. We don't have any monument dedicated to Maidan. Well, they are in different villages, but in Kyiv we don't have any national monument. I believe This is important to have this period of reflections. It is very important. And this text and other texts will help us think about that again, not to do things in a hurry, not to make conclusions like that is traditionally done. They write about some betrayal, about some victory. We shouldn't do that to Maidan. We have a lot of time to discuss it all and little time to do certain things. I believe that the results of investigations should become the most important monument. We still don't see any results. That is what we should be working on.
Дві ремарки хотів.
Two remarks. First, about the title, Maidan Evidence, and then Kyiv 2013-2014. I believe this is also important. On the one hand, we can think that Kyiv wants to take ownership of that event. On the other hand, that is openness, which is different view at the capital as a place where people learn how to listen to each other and how to listen to something different. All the texts are mixed up. There are people from Kyiv, from Lviv, from Odessa, and that helps me understand what is my native city about.
And how do this book work? How does this book work? 10 minutes before the beginning of our meeting, I tried to understand where I seen Olena, but when Olena started to speak, I immediately understand how she recited poems near the premises of Solomonsky Court. We did not see each other since that time, and now due to this book we met again. Thank you. That's very good. I would like to add one more remark, that it's important to make reflections on Maidan. Moreover, Maidan is not over. It should be continued and continuing our discussion in the spiritual way. Quite often the priests are advised not to impose the preaching on Jesus Christ upon people, but to live their life, to be asked about Jesus Christ. So we should live in the way to have moral right to preach about Maidan. Thank you, dear colleagues. We have heard the statement about what young readers, what young people read. For me, Maidan was a symbol where generations were not separated. We we, the people, adult people, we saw younger people on Maidan and elder generation, and Sergei mentioned that the fact that Ukraine became in existence, it was very much contributed by this fact that many generations joined together on Maidan. And currently I'm thinking on the following fact. Having seen this book, I think I keep thinking about the text as a reflection of the historical event. For me, there appears a great problem about the role of the national and the social myth in Maidan. Before Maidan, we lived in the paradigm of Kazakh mythology. Kazakh chronicles defined our thinking paradigm for a long period of time. Probably it's a question to Yevhen, Konstantinovich, and the younger researchers, whether there is any threat, or is it a positive thing that such written narratives may form new mythology, and whether those mythology will be constructive. Probably that the question to...
Я тут якби зовнішня людина, тобто я представляю фонд, який підтримав книжку, і тому я не маю права великого бути на рівні.
I believe that I can only answer your question as a philosopher, not as one of the authors. I don't think that Cossack myths was the basis of independence of Ukraine, or was a paradigm. No, this is wrong. They wanted to make it.
України. Це добре, вони натякали на
They were hinting at history. I wrote about that. I don't want to talk about that. But what you said, that Maidan united all generations, and it united the nation, and this unity showed that the nation wants independence, wants to be part of Europe. That's fantastic.
Я забув сказати.
I forgot to mention, that's not the text. It's evidence, which is published. It's so close to the language, to the action, to the act, to life. These are not the texts. These are not like historic texts. And there's a chance that there will be no myth. We don't want to build anything on a myth. I believe that there will be a myth, and the myth is needed. Every nation, every community needs the myth. And this will be the myth about Maidan as about the victory of people over evil. It's difficult to argue with my friend philosopher. I believe that these materials, this evidence, these are texts. Each one of them is big. every time when you read it again and again, you see more and more sides of the event, and that's a great event, the great victory of Maidan, where there was everything, solidarity of people, dignity, new aspects of the faith, courage. But in each of these events, there are some that was registered that it was happening at that time with this person in this house.
Тих, хто захоче зрозуміти наш час і захоче аналізувати, що ж відбувалося в ці дні.
Я тут вам жарт приготувала, поки на зустріч їхала. Якраз він про покоління. Якщо пам'ятаєте, я думаю, у вас теж були такі моменти, коли от вас намагалися схилити до якихось побутових речей, які не дуже вам подобались, там помити посуд, поїхати на буряки кудись до бабусі і так далі. І бабуся з дідусями використовували такі аргументи, там ми війну пройшли, ти маєш нам допомагати і так далі. Так от, нарешті, у молодого покоління з'явилися свої контраргументи, якими можна відмазатися від літніх городніх робіт. От. І власне, щодо міфу. Я думаю, що от міф, він вже серед нас, от як такий у нас теологічний момент, перепрошую, міф, от, він серед нас, тому що часто, коли ми починаємо в Фейсбуці дискутувати про те, за що стояв Майдан, то ми собі в голові все одно складаємо ідеальний образ людини, яка би мала відповідати абсолютно всім моральним постулатам такого ідеального майданівця. Але потім, коли ми віч-навіч зустрічаємося з людиною, яка там дійсно була, і яка, ну, скажімо, не дуже така соціально адаптована, тоді вже міф починає розбиватися і реальність постає перед нами в усіх своїх фарбах. Але з іншого боку, міф – це навіть прекрасно. Він дає нам певні світлі якісь спогади і тримає нас на такій одній хвилі.
Ну,
I would ask you not to be afraid of myth. Myth is the story which you cannot put under the question. It's like a symbol. In Maidan, there was one attempt called the first college tent, and there was always music, and it was possible to warm yourself with prohibited substances, prohibited compounds in Ukraine. But this was in the same Maidan where I was present. And this is written in this confidence, in this confession. And I wrote down that I was afraid when I stayed in Maidan, especially for my brother who had a daughter under 1 year old, and this is a possibility to get the idea about different universes when there are a lot of events, but not to get just unified picture in stone, which may fall because of the blow of a wind. And don't be afraid of the myth. I do not think there will be a myth. It seems to me that the story of Maidan and the myth of Maidan, they are produced simultaneously. I was irritated not just with some expressions, not by other people, but with my own expressions and statements. And even now I felt, why did I say this? The logic should be different, and actually this willingness to change the image of Maidan is working in me now. The most specific example.
З табору написав свій текст «Свідчення» мовою їдиш, і за 15 років переклав його французькою і змінив кінцівку. Його за це дуже багато критикували, звичайно. І, власне, чи він мав рацію, чи ні? Напевно, немає сенсу про це говорити. Чи він мав право? Так, мав право. Але в тому і той сенс, що дуже важливо зафіксувати події одразу, важливо ставитися до пам'яті, до роботи пам'яті критично, і разом із тим приймати те, що, власне, цей міф все одно твориться.
Я вже думав і не говорити після останньої промови, тому що мені здається, що тут є, прости господи, діалектика дуже велика. Ну, це і творення міфу, і водночас його конкретизація в повсякчасній історії кожного, тому що на будь-які міфотворчі потуги знайдеться 200 людей, які стояли на Майдані, і тобі скажуть, все було не так. І поки ці ж люди і водночас цей міф весь час твориться тими людьми, які думку, спогад, якийсь образ Майдану тримають якесь світле місце всередині себе, яке їх мотивує, яке їх надихає. Через те єдинство і боротьба, і далі не буду.
Є в нас ще одне питання. Давайте останнє питання, тому що ми вже 1,5 години дискутуємо.
Це більше, ніж питання. Хотів, перш за все, подякувати колективу «Дукh» і «Літера» за цю книгу. Тому що, особливо за її другий підзаголовок «Київ». Тому що я народився в Києві, і це сталося в Києві. І за те, що ви вибрали, мабуть, найважчу форму фіксації, як на мене. Мені завжди здавалося, що фотографам простіше, але вони будуть зі мною не згідні. І те, що на цій обкладинці стоїть ім'я Фінберг, це гарантія якості. Тому що справді дуже важливо зафіксувати це зараз, зафіксувати ту реальність у різноманітті. Навіть видно з людей, що сидять на сцені, я прочитав імена в книжці, і це справжнє різноманіття. І дякую вам за це різноманіття, за цю фіксацію. І ще дякую тому, що в нас не було часу насправді осмислити те, що сталося. Бо одразу за Майданом почалася війна. І сьогодні лише, мабуть, з'являються перші моменти для осмислення того, що сталося тут у нас за спиною, сталося в цьому домі. І це дуже важливо, і дуже дякую вам за це.
Я думаю, що на цій позитивній ноті вдячності ми можемо закінчити. Дякую всім, хто прийшов. Дякую, що ви сьогодні згадували разом з нами. Дякую всім. А якщо хтось хоче придбати книжку, це можна зробити на виході. Дякую всім.